John Cooper CPAs, located in the heart of East Nashville, offer a wide variety of tax services for individuals and businesses. Contact them at 615-257-0646 and visit their website, allcooper.com, for a full list of services.
Hey guys, welcome to Emerging Artists. We're here today with Mike Aiken and we're talking about his latest release, Captains and Cowboys. We'll see you soon.
Bandwidth for today's show is brought to you by SoftLayer.com. We love SoftLayer here at Talkapolis. They are the greatest hosting company ever. They make everything easy. Check out their website at SoftLayer.com. Thanks again for sponsoring the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to Emerging Artists. I'm Kane Harrison and we're lucky enough to have singer-songwriter, country music extraordinaire, Mike Aiken with us today. Welcome, Mike.
Hey Kane, thanks very much. Glad to be here.
Man, absolutely. Originally from Virginia, correct?
Originally, I've traveled a lot, originally from about 30 miles east of Buffalo, New York.
Wow.
Little rural town that wasn't big enough for a post office, so very, very rural. But that's originally, and at this point, out of Virginia. Right.
Excellent. And so what brings you to Nashville specific?
This particular one is, like you were saying, new CD is out. But most of my business, I live on a sailboat, travel a lot between that passion and the music passion, and my music business runs out of Nashville, so I'm here quite a bit.
Fantastic. And we're going to touch on the sailboat later on because I think that is absolutely extraordinary. Let's talk on the album first. It's called Captains and Cowboys. It was released on April 22nd through Northwind Records.
That's correct.
It took you 2 years to get this new release going. I understand it's an incredibly long process. Just take us through how it took so long.
This one, this is my 6th CD out, and I've done others quickly. This one, it is sort of a concept CD. It was real personal for me. During that 2-year time, I've written for other people. I've written a lot of songs. Most of them didn't fit this project. And it was a point in my career where I wanted to make a little bit more of a statement of what was important to me, and maybe not lean so much on commercial success, but I hope it is a commercial success. Everybody buy it, of course. But it took 2 years really to get the right songs. Took me quite a while to get the right producer. And then the way we went at it was a little bit different. Dan Baird from Georgia Satellites produced it, and part of his deal was to slow it down.
Okay.
So we went in last July, tracked 4 songs, gave them some room. I had what I thought was the whole CD written. As we went through the process, we started eliminating more songs, writing more. We went back in September, did 4 more, gave it some time, went back in January and finished it.
Wow.
So it was a process of really letting the CD start to develop its own life and follow sort of its own path, and we sort of tailored to that. So it was a different way of making a CD, and I'm real pleased with it.
And I mean, as a songwriter and a musician, that must be fantastic. So often you're thrust into, let's hurry up and pick 12 songs, let's get it onto a CD, let's get it out. So it must be fantastic to be at the stage of your career and also to have that understanding fan base for you to have the confidence to be able to release the music that you're wanting to talk about.
Well, I have to say that my agent wasn't so happy. You know, he wanted that new CD,
I've got no doubt.
and a little bit radio. But it was a point where I thought I could do something that was a little deeper as a writer than maybe some of, did other stuff where I was proud of the music. You know, the CD before was sort of a Nashville type CD.
Yeah.
Came in, and then, in a day and a half everything was recorded, and another day and a half after that everything was mixed. You know, it was sort of a production. I was pleased with it, but I was after something else here.
Yeah, and you have some amazing players on there. One of my favourites, Tammy Rogers.
Oh,
who,
man.
I mean, from the Steel Drivers, an incredible band. But Tammy's brilliant, the fiddle and the mando and all those different things. A great ensemble of people. How did you wrangle these people together?
Really, a lot of that came through Dan. Dan and I talked about what I was after, who I liked, styles I liked for side players. And then as it went on, he started suggesting people. We listened to people. There were some people I really wanted. I wanted Dan Dugmore. I mean, he's an amazing pedal steel player.
Yeah. Little Big Town?
He did some Little Big Town stuff.
Yeah.
But he did a lot of James Taylor.
Yep.
Old Linda Ronstadt stuff. He's all over. But he plays from. he plays from feel. It's not a million notes.
Okay.
You know, a lot of steel players are technically great, fast. That's not Dan's style, and that isn't what I was after.
Great.
And then he came and did some stuff on guitar that I didn't realize he played regular guitar, and it blew me away. Just
Session musicians of Nashville, just unbelievable.
Yeah, they are.
Incredible.
They
The other
are.
thing I want to talk about on the track is that the songwriting. I mean, you've collaborated with a number of different people.
Right.
You self-penned, I think, 3.
Right.
And collaborated with the other. How did you get people to get on your page for what you wanted to write about?
It's an interesting question. It's come from quite a few years of co-writing in Nashville, and then that came to the picking of the writers that got what I was trying to do.
Okay.
You know, afterward, wrote a lot, only kept some. Some of it I knew there were certain people that I could sort of get certain things out of, and I think they felt the same way with me. So when we went in, like. Today, I'm hoping after leaving here, I'm going to finish a song, I hope, that didn't make the CD.
Right.
Not that it wasn't good enough, it just didn't fit. You know, so there was some of this, and with a guy, Tim Buppert, who I co-wrote 3 on there. And you just started working the songs and trying to get them to what I was after.
Yeah, and it's so hard when you end up with, 20 songs that you have to whittle down to 12 songs or whatever it might be. And I mean, go ahead. It's just
a
tough.
Classic on this. I mean, it's never happened before, and it sort of set me back the first time. But Dan Baird, and and Dan right in the beginning said, I might not be the easiest. I'm going to push you pretty hard. We're going to do this, but we got along really well, and so I sent him a song, rough demo. Just into a little Zoom guitar voice. Sent him a song. Said, I think this might work. I got an email back that had 2 letters. And it just said no. So as a writer, I'm used to having people sort of like my stuff, and I said, you got to tell me more than no. And he goes, and then the next email came and said, you can do better. Well, I got that. I said, okay, let me push and dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
But that was very welcome to have somebody.
Still 6 records in your learning.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's fantastic. That's fantastic for everyone else out there to know who's just making a first record or a second record. I don't think there's anything, to perfection when you're a songwriter. It's just always influenced, and you learn and move on.
It's the influence. I mean, you might think that you have it, and you run into a writer. Doesn't have to be a known writer, and somebody that just blows you away of how they can turn a phrase or how they can see a situation. I mean, you're always learning.
Yeah.
I hope I'll always be learning, and have an open enough mind to do that. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, let's talk about your favorite song on the album. Obviously, this is really difficult, I know, and it changes all the time because over a 2-year period, you probably fell in love with them, all of them, at different stages. But there must be one, I know that you've got a couple of singles out, which we'll get to, but there must be one that you really can't either wait to release or that's close to your heart.
Oh, that is a real tough question. That's a very tough question, and because the songs go all over the place.
Okay.
They cover a wide range, from a almost tongue-in-cheek standpoint, but it's also a favorite because I can sit and listen to Dan Dugmore play the steel for forever. There's a song called "Take the Boy Fishing."
Okay.
And "Take the Boy Fishing" is just a tongue-in-cheek about. I've spent a lot of time on the water around captains, the particular marina we have our boat at. There were 3 captains that raised their kids alone, so it was sort of an interesting thing. And then watching these daughters grow up on the dock, and a dock that has Norfolk's a Navy town, all these guys, and watching how these captains dealt with the young gentlemen that tried to take out their daughters. That was a pretty tough one, which turned into the tongue-in-cheek thing. So I look over and said, "How's this guy doing?" He goes, "I think it's time to take the boy fishing." That was the line of "Let's get him out of here," which turned into a song. So that one for me, there's a certain, and then we just gave Dan, our whole direction was, you play us what you feel, Dan.
Yeah.
That was it, and he came up with just incredible stuff.
Yeah.
So there's one on the funny side.
Yeah.
There's
so Cowboys and Captains. Is that the single that's at radio or the going to radio?
No. I think Captains and Cowboys really is not probably a single.
Okay.
Type of song. To me, it sort of created the essence of the CD, and we worked around it from there. The single that's out right now is called "Summertime Song," and it's a to country, and it's more of a let's forget the worries and more of a fun tune.
Yeah, right. Roll the window down on a
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah, exactly.
That's great. And I also jumped on YouTube, which you guys can all jump on YouTube and check out Coltrane, which was released on Earth Day. Is that correct?
Earth Day.
What's the
April
story
22nd.
behind all of that?
It's interesting, and it leads to Australia as a little part of the song in a roundabout way. Living in Norfolk, Virginia, it is one of the biggest commercial ports of the country. And there would be these coal freighters, maybe 20 of them out at anchor waiting to come in and load coal. And where it really hit is when the Australian coal mines flooded a few years ago, and that production quit. Everything came to the States. All that coal is being shipped to China. That's where it's all going. And I'd watch so much, and then read a little article after that talked about now with GPS technology, you're watching the Appalachian Mountains actually get lower. And it's getting lower from all the coal that's being pulled out from inside. They're geographically starting to sink. And then, being a musician, I've done a lot of radio tours through Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, the Appalachian whole trail, the coal mining, and you see all these hard-working people that have been doing this for generations. Everything's loaded on the trains, run to the coast, put on these freighters, shipped off to China. And there's a whole dynamic of what our economy is doing and how these people have to live to support the physical US of A earth being shipped foreign.
Right. And that's specifically what this song's about?
That's what the song's about.
Wow. And as I said, you guys can jump on YouTube, and we'll put the links up for you to be able to check that out. It's a really cool clip, and it's a great song too.
And as a writer, I just hope to get a dialogue going.
Yeah.
I know there are people there that I hear people really like it. I hear other people saying they don't like it, but that's fine. That's what a writer should do, is get
I think
get some
it's
emotion
really cool.
going.
It's got a really moody, sort of almost Tarantino-like feel about it with all that slide. And it's almost like an Austin, Texas feel that's going on. It's a really, really cool track. And I actually listened to it a couple of times, but it took me a while to listen to the lyrics because I was just so in love with the musicality of the track. So it is really cool, and check it out.
We took that, went in and did that in one take.
Wow.
That wasn't the plan, but we started doing it, and I play a Dan electro baritone. Dan Bear was playing the acoustic, and we just started to run through it, and it just took off. And at the end of what was supposed to be scratch vocals, all that,
done.
At the end of it, we said, we're not going to beat this.
This is
done. Yeah, it was great.
Mate, the other thing I want to touch on, of course, and we touched briefly on it before, is your passion for sailing, and of course that you live in a boat, which is extraordinary for most people.
Right.
But how did that come about?
I grew up very rural. Lived on a farm for a while. Used to raise horses, quarter horses and Appaloosas, and for a while I was shoeing horses for a living. And but I just always have had a wanderlust. I mean, from a very early age, and realized you'd see people on small boats sailing around, and what's the Earth, 70%, 80% water, and if you could figure out how to own one of those boats and figure out how to navigate it, all of a sudden it seemed to me the world was going to become yours for your personal adventure.
Yeah.
That was really the lure. And there was a point where it was time to sort of leave the dirt, move on a boat, ended up selling anything we had on land. And I've been 20 years on a sailboat.
Wow.
A few different ones over the time. And the cool thing that happened was you could go to where you were enthused with music. So the first big trip was to sail to Newfoundland, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. The music scene up there is incredible, incredible. Lived there for a year, then took some time, sailed over and based out of Spain for a while, and have had real good success in Europe, and sort of developed a music career in Europe, then ended up in the Caribbean. So it's been a good platform to write from and to just experience from.
Well, actually, what amazed me was when I read the bio first and heard about all these adventures and everything else, is that it still is so homegrown, the music. I expected it to kind of be all over the place, to be honest, because of all of those influences. And I know when I write, I sometimes get heavily influenced, and you can see bits and pieces from everywhere. But it still seems like you're attached to, whether it's Virginia or
yeah,
New
the
York,
bass.
or
The bass came
to it.
Sort of. What seems ingrained to me is sort of a roots country feel, and it pretty much comes out through what I do. I mean, but you might have on that CD. There's a song called "Save the Whales," which is another sort of environmental thing, but it really gets a feel of that Celtic sort of maritime feel. And then from living, I was based out of Antigua for 3 years. Based out of there, it comes to put a sail on it as a way to get rid of your trouble. So I try to, in a CD or a live show, besides just taking people from the stories to the songs, I try to a little bit move them around the room geographically. So in one song, they're, you know, we were just over here.
They're on the sailboat with you.
Yeah, and I try to relate that in a show.
That is great. Well, Mike's going to come back and play a couple of tunes for us, which is absolutely fantastic. Mate, look down the camera and tell us all about where we can find you throughout your social media.
Okay. Of course, you can go to my website, which is mikeaikenmusic.com, and find everything there. Facebook, Twitter, all the standard stuff, and all my stuff's available in all the standard digital download spots, outlets, or probably most of your record stores you can find it too. So I'm out there.
Fantastic. So get on it. And also, as I said, jump on YouTube and check all that stuff out. The album is Captains and Cowboys, and it has been released, so you need to go and get it through Northwind Records. Mike's going to come back and play us a tune, and we look forward to it. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Talkapolis, the social media TV network for your city.